Hey, how's it going? I'm going to read you some cards, but please look at my signs first. Alright, you get the idea. So, oh man, I changed my setup and I just moved a couple of things around and I didn't account for the position recording things I don't want to record. So, I can't get my hands to work. Come on. So, just kidding. They work. So, I had watched this Netflix series called Who is Aaron Carter? And at first I was just like seeing it, and it was advertised a lot, it seemed like, and I don't know, it was like it was all, I don't want to see it. Like I was resisting watching it. And so then the day came where there just wasn't anything good to watch, so I watched it. And it was good. It was really good, actually. And the thing about it is, like, I watched it, like, I finished it. It's a series, so I finished it a couple of days ago, but I guess I needed it to sink in more. And, you know, lately, there's, like, here in the United States, all kinds of weird stuff going on with men treating like women as a whole like their possessions or livestock or chattel, anything but their own independent selves, right? So these are cards I pulled earlier. I'm just laying them out. Why am I doing it that way? I don't know. That doesn't go there. That actually goes here, and then that, and then that, and then that, and that. And but while I was shuffling these, which are from the Lightseers deck, and I'm just mentioning them. Well, I don't know. Scratch that. That's the deck they're from. But while I was shuffling, all these other cards kept trying to come out, but they kept trying to come out like 6 at once, and I need to just start accepting it, because it's like it was probably they wanted to come out for a reason. And I know that's true because I kept putting them back. And the same cards fell out, so I have like more cards than I usually do, and I just need to get used to the fact. I mean, I've seen people read with like the whole table filled with cards. I don't have that many decks. And like I still feel very new to this, so yeah, a lot of cards is intimidating. That's what I'm trying to say. And I started to say that I scratched, that I don't know what, if these cards will necessarily have anything to do with what I'm talking about. That's always the case. There, now you know that. You know what? Hold on a second. Something is driving me nuts. Nope, that did nothing. Also, that did nothing. I'm just distracted by my face split in half, light and dark. Anyway, so I guess it did do something, because now the line is all whoop, whoop, whoop. What is that? Shouldn't have messed with it. Anyway, I also pulled 2 cards from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck. Facing right way up. Don't stop glaring. See? Okay. And they are Garden of Venus. And the subtitle is Rest and Renewal. And it's the number 25 card. And I also pulled Lay of the Land. And the subtitle for this one is Ancestral Wisdom. And it's the number 34 card. Very cute. Both cards add up to number 7, which is not a bad thing. And I pulled another card from the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck. And it was the Shark card. And the little icon at the top there indicates what is fairly obvious, that it is a water element card. So, if you look at it in terms of water, emotions. Alright, before I get going with the cards, I want to talk about that show some more. So, the woman in the show is... She started out with a hard life. She got to be about 6, and then, like, her mother abandoned her sometime after the father abandoned both of them, I believe is what the story said. But definitely her mom, she says, goes out and then, like, never comes back. So, of course, she goes into foster care, and you learn that she, like many foster kids, I guess, bounced a lot from home to home. And they don't really dwell on that, but I mean, I don't know the percentages, but there's always, like, a good place to be and a bunch of, like, not great at all places to be when you're a foster. There's also the case, for any other kid in any other situation, but in particular with fosters, it's for someone that's gonna, like, take advantage of a child, or anyone, really. If there's fewer consequences, as in no parents to care, they're going to feel like, there's an opening. And I'm not saying that from experience. I'm just, sort of guessing and putting 2 and 2 together. I mean, of course, someone that's going to take advantage of someone else is also going to take advantage of an opportunity, or what they see as one. Because gross. But they don't dwell on that. But, it's implied. So, tough life. She goes to become a police officer. Because ultimately this woman wants to do the right thing. She's like a good person. And from that implication I was just discussing, sometimes when people go through bad stuff, they just want to do good. They want to show that there is good in the world and live it and be it, because the other experience, really left an impression. And it can go a lot of ways in both of those scenarios I discussed. But she went to the right, to the good. But for a lot of reasons, because she's a woman, because she was like a brown woman of indeterminate background, because they don't say anything about that either. It might be expedient to think that she's some kind of, like, Spaniard or something, since it was in Europe. But what I think is, she may have been, like, of Middle Eastern descent, because I grew up around a lot of Latinos, and something about her features are not really that. It's just a feeling. So, regardless, they don't discuss it, but it's like a mostly male-dominated place, which they show you. And even though she really excels at, like, everything that they have her go do, they just don't take it seriously. Like, they just dismiss it. And there's a particular person that literally gets up in her face about it, and they both had the training, the self-defense training, and she just like, well, she breaks his nose is the, is what ends up happening, and then she loses the police job. But the like secret police, or that sounds like really like Nazi Cold War era stuff, but like on Law and Order, I think it's CID, so like the spy unit. In Star Trek, it's like Section 33. You know what I mean? Because the guy sees what happens to her with the police, like sees how well she's done, but also sees that, that she was able to break this guy's nose, who, by the way, was significantly bigger, and like everyone is, and that was like a funny thing about it, because she is so small in stature, like she's short, but she's also like just a little wisp of a woman. She looks like if I sneezed, she'd take flight. She's very small. So it's kind of funny that they have her delivering these powerful blows that the impacts are so hard, she's knocking men that are like 1.5 feet taller all over the place. And leverage, yes, can be done. So she's also flipping them and doing things. It seems like a mixture of martial arts things was happening with this woman. But, again, she excelled at everything. So she's like kicking everybody's ass. It's just like, I get stuck on stuff. But anyway, and she comes across, she's in a situation at work, and, her boss says to her, and I thought it was kind of messed up because it was obviously like a, you are a device situation, but he starts talking to her new boss, I should say, since she lost the police job. So I'm just going to call them the secret police. So the secret police head picks her up, interviews her, brings her in, and basically the guy is grooming her. Like, that seemed pretty obvious to me, but he was so like dismissive of her. First he tells her, oh, what you did wrong, and like negged her, like he totally negged her, and then he complimented her. And he's like, well, I want you to come work for us. But before he says that, he says, you would make a good criminal. And I thought, I knew where it was heading. She, like, it was scripted so that she was kind of like, huh? But my God, they made her smarter than that, but in that moment, she didn't get what was happening. I don't know why. Just a thought, and I'm going to check, but it may have been written by a man. Seth MacFarlane kind of illuminated something I always suspected, because it's pretty evident. Men don't know how to write for women. Seth MacFarlane said that when Mila Kunis came to Family Guy, she was 15. And so he really didn't know what to do with her, because he was young himself, but he didn't have kids or a spouse, and I think that's still the case. But so he said they didn't know how to write her, so they just wrote her all fucked up. So anyway, I like Family Guy and American Dad, so moving on. Anyway, yeah, I think a dude might have written this story, because like all of it, like the ability for the flea to fight and defeat the dinosaur is kind of weird. Anyway, but I thought, man, that's messed up. You'll make a good criminal. And I thought, like, I knew pretty quickly that it was, I didn't like read what it was about, the description, but I knew pretty quickly that she was going to be made into a criminal and have to be on the run. It was kind of obvious. But it wasn't bad. Now, that's not a bad thing. But that is what happened. So, while she's, like, working undercover, she becomes caught up in the commission of a crime. And almost everyone gets taken down, but because she's so good, she avoids it. And also, one of the criminals has their dang child on the site. So this little kid is her age. It's when she was abandoned, and it's a little girl. So, hello, obvious again. Of course, he wants to grab her and get her out of this terrible life, but she made some choices which were not the best. In some ways, she's so smart and she's so on it, but when it comes down to the come down, sometimes she just screws it all up. So she ends up running off with this little girl and some of the take from the robbery that she was infiltrated in, that she was supposed to, like, you know, not become part of, like, not become Patty Hearst. Look it up. Symbionese Liberation Army Patty Hearst, if you don't know. Look it up. So anyway, that was not meant to happen. But here's the thing. This show, this character, in a lot of shows, there's some things I have a real problem with, and one of them is that line, "I did what I had to do." That just bugs me, because, well, you know what it means. It means they had to go ahead and murder somebody. So no, you did not have to do that, is what I think. And I know it's just in the show, but like I said, it bugs me. And so the other one is I had no choice. This is the one time where I feel like the character was justified in saying she had no choice, because she had other choices, but they were also bad. So that kind of means all of the choices were crap, and that's like none is good. So she didn't say it, but she, like, it wouldn't, I would have been fine with it. Me, the big home censor that answers to basically me. But anyway, and then another thing that she didn't do, which I really appreciated because I think it's so dumb. Any show, movie, whatever it is, whenever the person is gonna fire on their opponent, the enemy, the criminal, whatever, they want, for one, they blow their cover, they blow the element of surprise. Like if they're behind them and they can ambush them, they're all rah! Like, so the person knows they're coming and can also turn around and, you know, shoot back. So dumb. She didn't do that anywhere. Like, the men were doing it, and I was waiting for her to do it, but she didn't, and I was so happy. Isn't that crazy? Like, that made me so happy. But I appreciated it because it is the dumbest plot device ever. Like, why would you do that? I mean, I guess to make for more fighting, but man, there were more than enough opportunities for fisticuffs in this. And that's another thing I would like to compliment this show on, is that the fight choreography was pretty darn good. Like, I don't know if you've seen me talk about this before, but I do not like the hesitation, because it needs to be fluid, or you can see it. You can see the people making the move and then counting off until the next person moves. And if you can see them stopping and presumably counting, like, it's not like anyone's all... That's not what's happening. It's happening in the head, but I just know that that's what it is, because it's not a real fight and it's choreographed. So boom, 2 3 4, pow, 2 3 4, basically. And if you can see it, or if I can see it, that kind of ruins it for me. So not so much of that, but it was also well, they definitely took some hints from, like, Chinese martial arts movies, because there was a lot of fighting in small spaces, tight spaces, and that always makes for action, like, pretty exciting. Think of how many fights you've seen in a hallway or a corridor or a kitchen, like, especially in the Chinese martial arts movies. Like, spoons are all whapping, the spoon flips up and turns in the air and they catch it and then pow, you know, like, that's fun. Or grabbing a pitcher and pow, you know, like over the head, shatter. That's why they do it. Anyway, so that was like good and fun, but the other stuff, the way that no matter how good she was and how patient she was, because she's having to live this double life, you know, like first as the criminal, and then like she just retains the criminal name and runs off with this kid, and the mother ends up in prison, the kid's actual mother anyway. And I think like one of the pretty hardcore loud themes was that she's not a good mother, leave her with Aaron, even though every day she comes home all beat up and scabby, different clothes, hair awry. But she doesn't want to do all of these things. Like, she genuinely just wants to be a teacher. She genuinely just wants to be a mother with a family to this kid. And most of all, she wanted to make sure this kid did not have the life that she had when her mom went away at the same age. And that was like, in the midst of all the violence, like a little prize, like a little mint on the pillow. It's very nice. And it just underscores the fact that she was actually put into so many situations, and all she was trying to do was just live and be as normal as possible. And she didn't want the fighting, she didn't want the gunplay, you know, she didn't want any of it. And you know, she had other women, which if women can be blades, by which I mean we can stab each other in the back and just be mean girls and sabotage each other and smile in your face after they've done it to you, you know. So, but it was kind of just like everybody was against her, so it was like the weirdest thing, you know. But here's this woman, and she is dangerous. She is a shark, but like she has all of these not like these like kind of loving emotions. She's helpful, she's compassionate, she cares what's happening to her students, even when they're terrible, because you know kids can be so cruel and blah blah blah, or just rotten brats, because they were like teens involved, and adolescents and pre-adolescents, kind of all of the age of like just messed up, good, bad, ugly, you never know what you're gonna get. And she has like love for her adopted kid. She's got this new husband, and she's not like, she herself is not negative. She's doing everything she can. That's also kind of like a shark. Like, yes, they're dangerous, and yes, they're killers, but they're not like a human killer. They're not just like killing prey and just leaving it. They're killing it to eat, to live. Like, you know, think like a shark if you're gonna think about a shark. Don't think like a human thinking about a shark. And they treated this woman like she was a shark and not a human. So she just, you know, over and over, she tried to make her life beautiful and nice and sunny and just pleasant, you know. And for her, it was like a lot of work, and she really did have people like not appreciating her, like all that she did. And she, like, in the parts that you're shown in the show, you don't get to see her enjoy it, be able to rest and like renew. There's brief periods of happiness, like the daughter has an accomplishment of some type, or even she has some accomplishment that's good, but she just gets pulled into these situations through no fault of her own. And let's just say her life in this show didn't leave her a lot of like exit points. Like, pretty much everywhere she went, she was going to run into some kind of problem, which made for a good, exciting story. Don't get me wrong. And she kind of had to, like, really, while she's, you know, having all these dual lives and personalities, she had to, like, figure out the lay of the land, which in some cases it literally was like looking to see who was coming, you know. Sometimes she saw them, and a couple of unfortunate times she didn't, but she just was like magically unkillable. So that's good. But she also had to think on so many levels, so like more than the seeing of the geography, it was about like sensing like what is coming. Or, you know, at some point she finally starts realizing that she has to start being suspicious of like everyone. You know, her husband's best friend drags her into stuff, and then, you know, she declines and says no and everything else, but she ends up getting sucked in anyway, and it kind of screws up her relationship. And this guy is like, you got to tell him the truth about yourself, about it. Like, he doesn't even know the whole truth about who she really is and why she's there and why she can fight so well, and she's just supposed to be a substitute teacher. Like, everyone's like, who is this woman? So that's where the title comes from. But you know, the subtitle on here is Ancestral Wisdom, and it's kind of like when I started talking, the reason why I was stumbling so much is that I was trying to articulate that I'm talking about the period of time that's now, but women have had problems for centuries. It's like you're the you know what? I don't have it written down. If I can find a link of just that, I'll post it. But it reminds me of America Ferrera's speech in Barbie, her whatever monologue or whatever you call it. But she talks about like all the expectations that are put on us as women, and also the blame, and the we're not necessarily the actual people to be blamed, the scapegoats they like to make us be. And she was just talking about how all of the things you're supposed to do it and then not do it at the same time. And it is confounding to try and live within those confines. And it is confining, I feel like. So I just do whatever I want. I just do whatever I want. I don't necessarily conform to too much. And I suppose in some circumstances that could be difficult, but for me it isn't. I'm just saying, like, it's and it's not also not as like, it's not like just easy either. Like, I also have pitfalls and things in life and dealings with other people that you don't necessarily see coming. And in those cases when the things that are happening to you are happening because you're a woman, you also have to watch out for other women. So it's like you're just constantly like having to change your everything for the situation of the moment or the person of the moment. It's crazy making. So I'm gonna see if I can find a link to that. But basically it's like, well, here's this is gonna be real obvious, but here's one that stuck for me. Like, you're supposed to be thin, but you're not supposed to talk about being thin, and you can't be too thin, but you can't be fat. It's like, that shit is infuriating. It's like, can you just worry about yourself? If it were true concern, that's fine. So many times people have expressed their concern, and it's been like they were mad at me, like strangers, like, you need to lose some weight. Well, what? Why? Why are you so mad? Like, what is that? You know, or, you know, every one of your relatives well, not every one of them, certain ones of your relatives always having to comment on your weight and having to reach out and touch it and go, it's so soft, it's so flabby. Really? I don't walk up to you and say, you're so old, your skin is sallow and you can't do anything about it. Like, what? No. And strangers just on the street, hey, you need to lose some weight. Like, I have a mirror and I buy my clothes, and it's just like, you can look at someone that's overweight and go, oh, father problems. But you know what? That's so, like, dismissive. No one appreciates being treated that way. Yeah, of course there's reasons. That may even be one, but that's not every reason. It's like not that pat, And if, I don't disagree that our body is our temple, like that. That always kind of bothered me, that term, because I felt like I couldn't live up to it. It was like, I've been fat-ish a long time, either just fat or, less fat. So it gets old, like, I know what I'm doing to myself. I don't need everybody else to come up and deposit their opinion on me about it, especially if you're gonna get mad at me. Like, what right do you have to get mad at me when I'm destroying my body? You don't like the way it looks, avert your, view, look away. So, but there's more in that speech that I don't have to explain it to women. I don't know why men don't get it. I don't know why they think that, we're the problem for everything. Or, why they think that if they have no woman themselves at all, because they're, like, terrible, why do they think they can say anything about some woman's anything? Like, you have nothing to do with my life. Get out of here. I don't see us doing that to them. I mean, I'm not, like, in the scene of whatever that is. If it is a scene, I don't know. I don't experience it, but I resent, like, all of the interference in what we want to do with our bodies, and from women too, by the way. Like, you got your own problems, you got your own female health. Pay attention to that. It's like, I just don't like people trying to decide stuff for other people when they don't know what is happening in that person's life, or what motivated them to do the thing that you are against or that you don't believe in. And what is you don't believe in it? Wait, you don't think it's real? Well, what is that? What even is that? That also bothers me. Can you tell? I just would like us all to butt out, if not invited, basically. And that is why these cards are kind of confusing, but I didn't know what I was going to talk about except for Aaron Carter, who is Aaron Carter, but I guess this will represent all women, the Queen of Cups. And sitting there in her own space, I thought of several things to say, but I'm not going to say any of them because. But she is in her space, and you can see she's half underwater, which means at the very least she's aware of emotional currents in life, in the world, of her own, and she is working some sort of concoction here, and ritual, it looks like. That word has bad connotations. These are not bad ones. If you do something the same way all of the time because that is satisfactory for you, that is the way to do it, that's what this is. This is not about like putting a spell on, like, it's not like spooky, scary stuff. It's just like dealing with it her own way, like dealing with the emotional currents. And maybe this is sort of a shield, because we do, like, dealing with all of the things that we have to deal with like at our jobs. Like, I'm not gonna explain everything because I already talked a long time, but yeah, that's the queen. So, like, kind of all of us. This is all of us too, though, you know, like, I don't know if this is what drives people nuts, but like, men and women, I guess, but feeling free and like doing something that's not like standing over the sink or the laundry or the ironing board or whatever, and, you know, like, oh, playing drums, well, that's a man thing. Horses, that's a man thing. And that neither is the case. Neither is true, you know. But if I were going to read this traditionally, it'd be more about bringing some sort of information to the rest of us, which, if I'm going to go with that, I'm just going to say the message is, don't get dragged down, stay up, you stay, you know, optimistic. I mean, you can be happy. Don't let everything that tries to make you not be happy, don't let that do it. Don't let it do it to you. Everything, look at this. It's all about emotional. Here's the thing. Like, for medical reasons, like abortion stuff doesn't, medical and age, that doesn't apply to me anymore, but I know how crucial it was the one time I was pregnant that I needed to have that termination. And I had reasons, you know, and I had feelings about the father, I had feelings about being with child, I had feelings about making the decision to not go forward, and that is why I don't have a child today. There's like a lot involved. There's family that, you know, like, once they found out, because I wasn't going to mention it, and then it was like, you know, I had to endure, like, I did something wrong, like I took something away from them that I was obligated to provide or something, and I was like, well, it was my father. I'm like, well, you know, if we want to talk about providing stuff, where the F were you? So, feelings about that too, and just, you know, everybody's got some input. I'm so glad that the place where I went at the time didn't have people marching outside of it, because there's actually Planned Parenthood not far from here, and there's people out there screaming and yelling at cars that are going by that are not even going there, and they're just like, I don't know. I mean, they're screaming and yelling at people that have nothing to do with it. That is like aggressive and kind of crazy. And I have to feel for the people that are trying to sneak in there, that they may not even be going in there to have a dang abortion. They're like so hard-headed, these protesters, these people that don't believe in it. Believe it, because people have reasons for what they do, and you don't know all of them. You don't know what they are. And, you know, if it's financial, it's not right for you to just expect someone to decide to, or to go against their decision to not take on this particular role at that time. Like, it might change down the line. But out. It's very emotional. And then there's like the whole quagmire of the like Texas as the anti-abortion star of idiocy, putting so many restrictions on these women about it. Like now they want to make a law that they can't go out of state to get the care that they can no longer get at home. Not everybody can afford to do that. They might get help. They're trying to prosecute those people. It's like, butt out. How is that all of their business? How is it the government's business? Like, someone said, shortly before I started watching this, they care, like this 9th month abortion. That is some stupid stuff. Like, why is the conversation even being had? I don't hear women saying it because they know better. I don't know how a man can think of something as dumb as that. Okay, I don't believe in that. Because the 9th month abortion, the termination of the pregnancy is birth. Crazy talk. Shut up, I don't want to hear anymore. Can't we just be together on this, especially us women, because we're all subject to it at one time or another, you know? I mean, you definitely age out of the birthing period, but like myself, I still care about the people that need the service for whatever reason. You know, even if they are frivolously having abortions on call, on demand, or whatever the problem is, so what? It's not you. It's not your life. If you're so concerned about people going to hell, that's their path. That's their plan. And you know what? You know what's not wrong with it? Everything. Because religious people, God made everything, including the need and ability to terminate a pregnancy if that ain't right for you. Yeah, like, that's the thing. The separating of everything, and this is better than that, and all of the comparisons. No, it's all supposed to be here. Everything, even if you think it's something wrong, it's still supposed to be here or it wouldn't be. That's your thing. That's your religion. Why do I have to explain that to you? So, some help comes for people, though, especially in those situations like Texas or Arkansas now, where it's not just in both places, in all places, it's not just the women and their families going through all of this. It's also the doctors. Like, the doctors are in a terrible position too, because they can be prosecuted for doing what they know is the right thing to do if they are concerned with health and healthcare and not the politics of it. So I don't know if it's going to be actual money that's going to change hands. I think money makes more problems than it helps, but if that's what it takes, then that seems to be what's in the card. Yeah, I guess that is a man's hand. I don't know, the nails are kind of painted a little bit. So maybe it's women helping each other, you know, which is a good thing. It's better than us being against each other. That makes no sense. It happens, though. So either way, it is going to work out. Like, I've heard predictions that the Dobbs decision is going to be reversed. That's the abortion craziness. And also the IVF is likely to be, or is going to be reversed. But, I mean, I didn't need a psychic to tell me that. It's so insane that it can't possibly stand. If anything at any time, it's now, where a woman should have all of the access that she needs if she's pregnant for the safety of her and the child. I mean, the conservatives are screaming and yelling about don't have an abortion, but they don't. That's what I started to say, and I didn't finish the thought, of course, but what the person said was, if they have an abortion, oh God, what did they say? Now it just flew out of my head. Oh, they care about the child up until birth, and then as soon as they're born, they no longer care. They become another person to dismiss, ignore, separate, cancel, whatever you want to call it. But they don't want to provide, actually, before or after, good health care for women and babies. But, like I said, we're not barbarians anymore. Like we probably weren't back then because, well, anyway, you don't know what time period I'm thinking of. But we are not barbarians. We're supposed to be modern, educated people compared to all. Like, we have more information available to us that a lot of people are not taking advantage of. But it's there. And the reason to pay attention to it is just for good health, good mental health of everyone that has to see it and hear about it. And for the people the pregnant women and their families. You know, and not everyone needs to have a kid. Like the conservatives are talking about, we need to have more kids. We who? Who are you talking about? There's no we with me. Well, I can't do it anymore. But if I could, there'd be no we with me. So, I guess what I'm saying is, and I guess to women too, like, we are not to be dismissed. We are not to be diminutized and, you know, treated as if we're not serious and our opinions mean nothing and we have no useful knowledge or skills. That's handy when you're trying to shut somebody out, when you're trying to make an argument, but we need each other. Men need women. Women need men. People need each other. I mean, I understand that it's like a phase we're going through again, still, whatever, but can we move on to the next phase yet? Are we there yet? I would just like to see us treat each other a lot better and not make us have to live our lives like Aaron Carter and sharks and be misinterpreted and misconstrued. I keep saying it's easier to just get mad and say thoughtless, angry things about and to people. It's more difficult to do the right thing, to be kind, to just let people be how they're going to be, because you have your own life to worry about. You really do. You don't have to evangelize religiously or otherwise. Like, no one has to do that. People have their families, and that's how they grow up and learn stuff, and if they don't, then they get their lives other ways, like this woman in the show. Not everyone that has a bad life ends up continuing it as an adult. You know, like, we have choices. You know, it's not just I did what I had to do and well, think about it. You got choices, and they may not all be good, but I mean, I don't know, I guess it's something like don't be so impulsive, especially with other people's lives, because in some cases people have undue influence in other people's lives, and I just don't think that's right. Thank you and good night.